A mayoral candidate in Houston arrested over the weekend for DUI and other alleged offenses plans to plead not guilty to the charges. On Friday night, 56-year-old Hubert Hamilton was arrested by the MHP on Airport Road. Hamilton was charged with DUI, second disorderly conduct, failed to comply with police officer, resisting arrest, and no insurance. Hamilton is running as a Democrat for the mayor's seat in Houston. He has hired attorneys Jason Shelton and James Moore to represent him. Shelton says Hamilton will plead not guilty to the charges. A traffic stop leads to a drug arrest in Montgomery County. On April 20th, a deputy with the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office pulled over a vehicle on Highway 82 East for not having a tag. The deputy began a roadside investigation and arrested Timothy Ryan Green for alleged drugs. Green was charged with several felony charges, including possession of a weapon by a convicted felon, trafficking controlled substance for meth, and possession of a controlled substance of marijuana. He also racked up misdemeanor charges for possession of paraphernalia and 3 traffic citations. It's time now for our Legal Line segment with Jeff Hosford. Thank you for joining us today, Jeff.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so gun laws in the United States vary from state to state. For example, in Mississippi and Alabama, the foundational laws are mostly similar, but there are stricter laws in states like Minnesota. And in Florida, the laws differ when you talk about taking them out in public. So what should people think about before traveling with firearms on vacation?
Obviously, number one is know where you're going. Number two is if you have a concealed carry permit, that grants you more rights in other states than just using the Mississippi law of your car as an extension of your home. For example, Mississippi, I can drive around with a firearm in my car because my car is deemed an extension of my home, and therefore I legally don't need a permit to carry it in my car. In many states, that's not the case. For example, a concealed carry permit would be required in many states. And if you don't have those kind of permits, it can be a felony or a misdemeanor. For example, New York, it is a felony to carry a firearm without a permit. California probably has a similar law. Florida has different laws than Mississippi, but they're not as harsh as New York and California, obviously. All the states have their own laws. So one thing is to be aware of where you're going, what your rights are to carry in that state, and then make sure you operate within those rights.
So you talked about in some states it can be considered a felony. Well, how severe are the consequences from just not knowing the gun laws the state you're in, even if someone doesn't know?
Well, contrary to popular belief, not knowing the law does not excuse you from breaking the law. So for example, if you take prescription marijuana to a state that doesn't allow prescription marijuana, then that can still be possession of marijuana in that state, even though you have prescription in the state you're from. Obviously, there's lots of arguments there, but similar to a gun, if you don't know the law in that state in which you're traveling, it does not excuse the fact that you broke the law. Obviously, there's lots of arguments you can make once you hire a lawyer and get to court, but you really don't want to do that. You want to avoid that. So what you need to do, where you're going, research it. The internet is a great place to research it. If you're really worried about it, call an attorney in the state in which you're going to. Most attorneys know pretty freely what the law is regarding carrying a firearm. But again, the safest bet is always to get your concealed carry permit in the state in which you're from. Once you do that, then you look through and see who has reciprocal concealed carry permits. That makes it easiest. And then the states that don't, then you have to see what you have to do in those states. Some states include locking firearm and ammunition in separate areas. It could be very complicated, so make sure you do what you're supposed to do.
All right, well, thank you so much, Jeff.
Thank you for having me.
We send things over to Ashley for a first look at our weather.
Well, as far as I know, there are no laws against carrying umbrellas, and I hope we have all taken that into consideration over the past couple of days, because we are now on day 3 of 3 with scattered showers across the area. Those scattered showers and storms sticking around as we continue our way through our Wednesday evening as we're looking across the area now. Plenty of heavy cloud coverage with those scattered showers, but some of those clouds starting to break apart just a little bit, allowing for us to see some sun. Temperatures still relatively warm out there, anywhere from the low to mid 70s. Starkville at 72, Columbus at 73, Corinth and Vernon both now at 75. Grace.
Thank you, Ashley. Well, Columbus's Ward 2 will have new representation this summer. Roderick Smith won a large majority of the votes in the primary runoff on Tuesday. He defeated Laisha O'Neill. Smith says he wants to rebuild the ward and show up for residents when something happens. Flooding and crime are two issues Smith believes the city can address. However, there's one mission he wants to address first. Now, Smith takes office July 1st. Incumbent Joseph Mickens was defeated in the primary. Now, current and former military service members will have a wide range of resources all in one place during a Veterans Fair this weekend. The GV Sonny Montgomery Center for America's Veterans is sponsoring the Veterans Resource Fair. The event takes place this Saturday and will feature more than 20 vendors. Eddie Scales is with the center and says the goal is simple: to connect veterans and their family members with services that are available, but oftentimes can be tough to navigate.
What I'm hoping the takeaway is veterans find valuable resources that they can actually use, and not just, just a place to go to see things, but actual benefits that they can use. For instance, the Home Purchase Board. The Veterans Home Purchase Board should be there. Veterans Administration out of Jackson, Mississippi, they should be there, and they work with claims. So if there's a veteran in the Golden Triangle area who needs help with claims or purchasing a home or financial help or anything like that, we should have those resources there.
Fair is this Saturday from 8 until 3 at the Boost Extension Center on the MSU campus. Stick around, we'll be right back.
Telling your story. You're watching WCBI News with Grace Brister.
Welcome back. Starkville High students are working on projects beyond the classroom. Construction and welding students are building a mobile hunting house for a local nonprofit. The ministry Hope Outdoors helps those with special needs or physical challenges hunt and participate in other outdoor activities. The hunting house will be wheelchair accessible and ventilated for any season. Starkville students started working on the project in February.
Probably 60% of our hunters are in wheelchairs, and this will make us more mobile and more comfortable. We can have heat, and we can actually run a generator. It'll be wired for lights.
We basically had the whole punch, I think 15 little elbows to put on the end to support where the wheelchair is gonna come up. Had to grind out some spots, take out a hydraulic line and all that, so we've been doing some work on it.
The mobile hunting house is expected to be complete by the end of the school year. For more information about the nonprofit, you can visit the Hope Outdoors website.
As the rain chance continues, temperatures start to climb. More in your forecast coming up after the break.
Your WCBI First Alert forecast with meteorologist Ashley Bryan.
So far, we are day 3 of 3 for scattered showers and storms across northeast Mississippi. And over the past 7 days, we've seen a lot of rain fall across the corner. Half an inch in Columbus and Kosciuszko, over an inch in Starkville and Aberdeen, nearly 2.5 inches of rain, and making it nearly 4 inches to our south in DeKalb. And more rain is expected as we continue over the next couple of days. Another 50% chance for showers and storms Thursday, 40% Friday and Saturday, down to 30 on Sunday as we hopefully start drying out after this week-long rainy system. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of next week look to be clear for now. As we continue overnight, that stationary front, the cold air started taking over. So now we have a very long cold front draped across the eastern and southeastern portions of the country. Conditions pretty much locked in place, so we'll continue with scattered showers overnight and into our Thursday morning 9 a.m. along the areas between Tupelo and Columbus here. We are expecting more of that rain to begin to pop up. So if you're getting ready for work or to take the kids off to school, make sure you are prepared with the rain gear just in case. We'll continue that summer-like pattern with the peak in our rain chance going through the afternoon into the early evening. We'll maintain these conditions as we go overnight into our Friday morning. This is Friday, 5 a.m. Probably we'll wake up to hearing a couple rumbles of thunder as we go into the end of our week. We are looking for that chance to continue with that next front moving in from the west and northwest. Right now, you see that cold front draped across all of the deep south, with all states seeing those scattered showers and storms. Some of us even continuing to have severe thunderstorm warnings. We did have one here this afternoon, and we may get another one tonight. We may stay below those severe limits though, so make sure you are prepared to run indoors quickly if you are outside and you start to hear that thunder and lightning. Right now, looking across Columbus, some of those clouds are starting to break apart just a little bit, so we may get lucky and see a bit more of the sun before it sets tonight. Temperatures relatively mild outside, anywhere from the low 70s to the low 80s, about a 10-degree spread. As we go into tonight, temperatures will drop to the low to mid 60s. There's a chance for some patchy fog as well tonight, so if you run into that, make sure to slow down and have those headlights turned on. They should be on anyway if you're driving in the rain. Temperatures warm up into the mid 80s next week.
Welcome into Next to Nature this week, everybody, with Dr. John Long. And this week, we're boxing things up.
That's right. That's right.
There is something inside the box, I promise. Tell us about this guy.
Very appropriately, it's in a box because
Right.
this week we're going to be talking about a box turtle.
Who just stuck his head
Who just
inside
stuck
the
his-
shell.
That's right.
There's really a turtle in there.
There is a turtle.
So where did you find this guy, or is this a personal friend?
No, it's not a personal friend. We have been getting close. But actually, not too far from here, I saw this turtle crawling around in the woods, and I said, "You want to be a star on TV? We're going to make you a star on TV."
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
All right, so tell us a little bit about box turtles, and I mean, because I think of this area, I think like snapping turtles.
Right, which is we do have those too.
Mm-hmm.
A box turtle is also, some people around here would call them a terrapin or terrapin,
Okay.
which isn't too far from what they are scientifically known as. But box turtles come from like the farm pond turtles. That's what basically they are.
Okay.
Appropriately named, a box turtle, for those that have ever picked one up, has this little hinge here,
Okay.
and that's how it operates as a box, because that turtle's head is stuck in there and you can see the legs.
Yeah.
And when he wants to come out and say hello, that hinge will open up.
Ah,
And
okay.
So it's a protective thing, and it part of his house, like door hinges. That's what it serves as.
I truly did not know that. That's awesome.
Yep, and that's kind of where it gets the term box from. They have this kind of a dome shape on their shell. A lot of times, like if you said a snapping turtle, they don't have that dome. They're more of a flat type turtle, and a lot of turtles are like that. They have that flat shape to their shell, and this is more dome shaped. It's very decorative with these spots, orange spots, browns, and things like that. The shell is pretty durable. If you take notice here, you can see where he's been damaged.
Yeah.
That's right.
So how big do these turtles
They
get?
don't really get all that big.
Okay.
You're looking at probably a fairly good size one. But Joe, let me ask you this. How do you think box turtles live?
Well, that's funny because I was going to ask you that question.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, maybe about 15 years?
Double that. It'd be about 30.
30.
Sometimes even been recorded as being 50 years old, and undocumented accounts of being 100 years old.
Oh, wow.
So they do live a long time. They don't have that short lifespan. They typically will live quite a long time, and I think that's due to the fact that they're so protected in that shell. They don't react well to stress.
Okay.
Any type of environmental stress, it puts on them. But the shell is, like I said, is very protective, and they utilize that to protect themselves from predators. Like I said, you'll have a lot of things like cats and other things. Cats are not wild, but they are present in their yards, and maybe if you see one crawling through your yard, that may be a problem. Other predators in the wild are, can at least attempt to crack open the shell. I have seen box turtles that had the shell cracked, and they were still alive and well. So.
Okay. And you said normally you find these maybe out in the wild in around ponds?
So that's the interesting thing about box turtles. They really prefer land more than they do water. They do spend some time in the water, but typically they live very close to where they were born. within just a small few yards of where they were born. They do not get out of that range very much.
All right, one last real quick question.
Yes.
How many species of turtles do we have? Do you know?
I do not know that, but I'll get back to you.
There you go.
Quite a few, though, I think.
I thought so. Okay, all right, I winged that one on him.
Yeah, we can edit that.
All right, thanks so much for joining us, everyone, on this week's Next to Nature. Until next time.
Mic check, 1 2 1 2. Mic check. Mic check, 1 2. Mic check, 1 2 1 2. Mic check.
Telling your story on WCBI Sports with Bryce Broneisen.
Remember, Mississippi State knocked Ole Miss out of last year's SEC tournament, so the Rebels have now waited 10 months to get their revenge against the Bulldogs. That wait finally came to an end, and these two teams took each other on in the Governor's Cup yesterday. We're going to head to Trustmark Park in Pearl. The Bulldogs, Noah Sullivan, is going to be getting the start on the mound. It's his first time playing in this rivalry game. We're going to start it off all the way in the bottom of the third. Ross Highfield is going to launch that one in the deep left field. It's going all the way back and off the wall to set up the next batter for a scoring position. And Garrick Fry is going to come to the plate. He's going to get the base hit. Luke Chang is unable to make that play at short, and the Bulldogs now lead 2-0 with Gatlin Sanders coming in to score. Moments later, a wild pitch goes by Sawyer Reeves, and that's going to send Highfield to the plate. Just like that, it's 3-0 Mississippi State already. Rebels, though, trying to respond quick. Isaac Humphrey has come out to the plate, crushes that ball to center field. It's not quite gone. It's caught by the Bulldogs, but it will send Will Furness to the plate on the sac fly. Rebels cut into the lead, and Ole Miss would continue to score late. Austin Foley's home run in the 9th would tie the game before the Rebels walked it off in the 10th. They win the Governor's Cup for the first time since 2022. And switching over to football, where the Bulldogs capped off a busy spring with their annual spring football game last weekend. It was the first time that fans were actually able to check out their new look Bulldogs offense, while you have returning quarterback Blake Shapen and also running back Davon Booth, among others, providing some in-game experience. Mississippi State loaded up in the transfer portal, bringing in more skill players to round out their offense. And according to the players, the difference between last year's squad and this year's is extremely noticeable.
Everyone's a bit more together as a team. A couple guys have been in Coach Levy's offense for a while now, so I think we're kind of getting to grips with it much more than we did last year. So I just feel like we're a bit more connected. We play with loads of tempo, play as fast as possible, catch people off guard, and that's why we've got to be the most conditioned team in the country, because we play fast. In my opinion, Blake was slinging it how he's slinging it last year, how he is now. I mean, just staying healthy going into the season is, I say, the biggest thing for everyone, not just Blake, but everyone, just so we can do what we wanted to do last year, this year.
Continuing over the next couple of days, we are sticking with that summer-like rain pattern. Luckily, temperatures aren't as sane as what we will see coming up in the next couple of months. They will, however, be getting warmer. So expect upper 70s to lower 80s as we finish up the week. Then as we go through the weekend, we'll start to dry out just a little bit. And by early next week, that's when we're expecting those temperatures to reach back into potentially the middle to upper 80s. Overnight lows staying relatively mild there in the low to mid 60s.
All right, thank you, Ashley. That's all the time we have. Stick around. We'll be back here at 6.
Mic check, 1, 2, 3. Mic check, 1, 2, 3.
Actually, because I didn't even send it. Mic check, mic check, mic.
Check 1, 2, 3. Mic check 1, 2.